All right. Good afternoon, everybody. It's episode 19, Hxro Labs Live. My handle is randomtask555 on Twitter. Hit me up over there if you like. This is Nick Cote. What's going on today, Nick?
Hey, lots of going on in the markets today, like every day.
Always exciting. Never a dull moment. Truly, never a dull moment in crypto. It's kind of ridiculous. Can make your head spin. And just want to make sure we are running smooth over here. We've got Dave in the chat with Jonesy, Baker. Good to have you guys. And Silverback Stacker. Give me something good. Well, that is our plan today. We've got lots to talk about. Bears are getting a squeeze. The BTC Dominance just hit the century mark on this risk on window. That's 100 days into the big old rally. DOT continues its vertical climb, and YFI is in price discovery. So it's looking like it wants to go to 25K. What do you think of that, Nick? Yield token.
I've been in complete disbelief for this token. Originally, when they launched it, they said it had no value. Now it's worth more than Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I did that usual thing that I do, and I bought some on the dip at 2,200 or so last month, and then I went to the website to do the research after the buy, and I saw the lead dev on the site basically saying, this token is supposed to have no value. Do not speculate on it. And it was up to like 3,800, so I was like, okay, I'll take a win there, and I closed it out. I had one of them. And that one of them is now worth more than a Bitcoin. So whoops, but it was a good trade and I'm standing by it. I do not hold any YFI right now, and I probably won't buy because it just broke out to new highs. We will pull that chart up very soon.
Oh yeah, we got one ready.
Also want to dive down the old Uniswap rabbit hole. There's a few newer coins that have come out that we want to feature and talk about a little bit today. We've got Ken doing big things, somewhat right off the levels Nick talked about last week. So we're going to touch on that. And then we're just going to kind of get through a lot of the usual, the majors. Obviously, want to talk about Bitcoin turning the corner here after putting in a cute little double bottom, as well as Ethereum, which is outpacing it as we'd expect. So without further ado, let's flip over to Nick's charts. We'll get the equities, the S&P, the big boys out of the way so we can focus on the nitty gritty. We've got lots of juice today. And then, of course, we're going to wrap up the final stretch here with user requests and community guys. So if you guys have any bangers you want us to take a look at, please let us know. We will find value together.
We're begging you. Are we good to go here? We got some Bitcoin charts. All right, cool.
All right, Nick's coming in hot with the share.
Sorry, I should have had it a bit quicker. Anyways, here we go. So Bitcoin, it's still stuck in this wide range. 10.6, 10.5 continues to hold the supports. This range down here down to 11.1. 4 tests on it now. We've had similar responses every single time. Right now, I want to get bullish. I really do. Fed Powell saying that they're going to be aiming for 2.5% inflation. It's a pretty large deviation in terms of central bank monetary policy, as they normally just aim for that 2. Now they're saying that they're willing to overshoot that. Interesting. We've talked about inflation before. It's one of those things where you might not feel it right away, and then suddenly, boom, genie's out of the bottle and it can't go back in. So, ramping up money printing, probably going to backfire long term. But, people who are saying we're going to see rapid inflation immediately, they're probably wrong. The reason why, Japan's been in this case for 30 years, since like 1980, in deflation. Same thing with the Fed. Rarely do they ever get back to the 2% standard. So we'll see what happens. I don't think interest rates are going to be rising aggressively anytime soon. But with Bitcoin, more inflation news. That's good news for Bitcoin. You saw this spike up there on that news. Obviously, got faded yesterday. But the point is that Bitcoin's responding to macroeconomics and big news from the Fed, FOMCs, all that stuff. So this is really a sign of maturation of the asset class, especially as it gets institutionalized here. We've talked about it before, but we don't think the next big retail run will be retail driven. Not initially, at least. I don't think retail is going to get interested in this market again until we break all-time highs. Too many people got burnt last run, and people like buying all-time high breakouts because it's to them a signal of momentum and that this thing is about to go for another run. They're not interested in playing in the chop, right? It's similar to why you always hear me talking about, I want the expansion trades. I don't want to trade the chop trades, right? So I think that's the theory here. We're seeing the institutions coming into this space at breakneck speed. We're seeing institutional infrastructure being deployed, more importantly. I think in the next couple of years, at a lot of these U.S. federally chartered banks, you're going to be having access to your crypto portfolio directly from your bank, your traditional finance bank login. That's a smart move by banks, right? They know they can't compete directly with cryptocurrencies. It's too cheap, right? So they're just going to integrate it into their own systems, and they're going to try and position themselves as gatekeepers in that sense, making it easy, right? Taking complex ideas and systems and making a very simple, easy to navigate UI system. That's great for this space. I love it. Anyways, yeah, Bitcoin here though on the intraday, we need to move above this 11.55 mark. If we do close above this, I think we're pretty much clear for a retest up to these highs, up to this little order block up here around 12K. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. So maybe I'll draw a little quick squiggly chart TM to give you an idea of how price could unfold here. So if we do see a break up here, you can see there's a nice volume node right there. So this will probably serve as a little bit of resistance off this level here at 11.85. But again, what are we going to be looking for? We're not chasing the breakouts. We're waiting for the retests, something like this, right? So this is going to confirm the throwback, the second retest, higher low, hopefully. That'll be your confirmation that this thing is about to fucking go. So that's what we're going to be looking for. We're going to see this squiggly line chart on pretty much every chart I draw because that's how I trade. So moving over quickly to Ethereum, there's some interesting things going on Ethereum. I actually quickly want to draw your attention here to some hidden bull div on the 12-hour. You can see price making lower lows, momentum higher highs. You got the 12-hour Stoke cross here. We've already broken out of the.
Why don't you pull that Stoke up a little bit? I think the ticker may be covering it.
Okay.
You can double click it. It'll just go full size usually. Just want to make sure we're getting the full picture. Ooh, is XX? Okay, tell me. Somebody just said SXP is pumping. Happened to be.
Okay, that's good news.
Big
Anyways,
long on that one.
Hidden bull div, Coinbase charts. I think it's gonna pop here. It doesn't look too bad. So similar thing with Bitcoin, right? Draw a horizontal line off this 196 mark. Once we move above that, it's probably gonna run up to 412. Hopefully come back down, retest, and then off she goes back to these highs. Somewhere around that 417, 420 mark is what we're looking for on that one. Invalidation, well, obviously below these, 370 marks with that 360 still holding as the major support. Let's quickly pull this out to the daily, and you can quickly see how important this 360 level is. What do we have here? 1, 3, 5, 7 taps of this level right now, and it's continued to hold. The high time frame momentum indicators are resetting right now. We got a CR up on the SCMR indicator. Basically, it means a confirmed reversal. We get a close on that in 5 hours. So going to be keeping a close eye on that one. And then our baby ETHBTC. Originally, we thought, when it was back down here, we'd come up here, tap this. It did, confirms the resistance. So what do we need to see here? Well, we need this to turn to support. If we see this, we're going to get a mega boner on the long side for Ethereum. What we're going to be looking for, this turns to support. Boom, there she goes. Take out this high and off to the road to 0.04. So that's what we're looking for. Your invalidation level on this is obviously a break of this support. You can see this right here. That swept the entire range lows. It's never closed below since, so it's an easy stop loss off that low. So keeping a close eye there. Finally, with the Dixie, it's a macro play, guys. I know this thing's been really volatile back and forth. It's still, this entire range, this is just a 4-hour chart. But you zoom out to the monthly because that's what the macro is. It's the high time frame stuff. This could still drop a little, and still the theory is still in play, right? So don't discard that just yet. This is 1 to 2 quarter play. Definitely keeping an eye on that every day. The VIX, this is something again heavily. This is just measuring the volatility in the S&P. We expected this type of volatility to break out. Why? Because we knew that Federal Chairman Powell was going to be speaking. Sure enough, he spits out the inflation word, and the markets go berserk. We were in consensus that this thing is probably just going to return, back to this range. It was just a news-driven event, with the FOMC stuff. So, right now we're not seeing continuation in volatility. However, S&P just continuing its fucking grind here. this is something that we were looking at for a while. We said, if this all-time high breaks, well, there's going to be a high time frame momentum breakout. Sure enough, this thing has ran for the last 6 days. People are probably, if you're not FOMOing into this, you're waiting for that ideal entry. Well, where's it going to be? Well, it's going to be down here, right? If this thing supports, then there you go. Very similar pattern, right? So, if this high were to break, we'd probably be looking for much lower prices back down here. But for now, the stock market goes on. QE is probably going to be infinite moving up here, so keep an eye out for that. Finally, I guess we can go back to our commodities charts here. I'm actually pretty surprised that these have held up as well as they have. This is the former all-time high levels. And flipping to support. Gold bears have to be sweating things right now. As long as this holds, I think it's going to be okay. Any close below this, like I said last week, this thing's probably headed back down to the former yearly resistance at 1800 there right now. So we'll be keeping a sharp eye on that. SXP, sure, we can pull up an XXP. Looks like we've lost our partner right now. That's all right. We can carry on, guys, here. Let's take a quick look. That's XXP, USD. I know we were looking at this the other day, had a kind of bullish bias towards it. Look at this thing. Looks great. What are we going to do immediately when you look at a chart? Well, you're going to look for those order block levels. Here's a daily. Look at that. Perfect touch. So what are we going to be looking for at this point? Let's try and figure out some targets here. Again, there hasn't been a lot of price history to really validate a lot of these levels yet. So that's why you're going to want to bring this down to a smaller time frame. Take a look at this. Well, what do we got forming? Looks like an ascending triangle, doesn't it? Right off this blocker right here. So what's the play here, guys? Well, you know what it's going to be. Ascending triangles do have a probability to break out in the trend that they are going in, which is up right now. So we're going to be looking for something like this. Again, this is not an area you want to be buying into. This is resistance, right? This is the bearish throwback. So once it does break, what we're probably going to see is a move up to these levels, up to this high around here, around 3.4 or something. So you'd see a spike up. Ideally, this would get sold back down, turn this to support, build your momentum base, and then we can actually go off and start looking at these highs. These are the targets I would be looking for. So again, that 3.4, 3.5 level, and then moving into that 4, 4.2, and then finally up to the 5. The momentum in the DeFi coins have picked back up again. Quickly look at the DeFi curve to get an idea of that. This is based. Oh, RT is back. FTX swap. Let's see. Oh, the uni pair, sure. Yeah, like a lot of Uniswap pairs are actually doing pretty well today. Liquidity pools on Uniswap continue to pound out the highs. This is a nice V-shaped cut. It's very kind of U-ish almost, but U's and V's, they both look good to me. So again, hardly any chart history, guys. Here, this is just an index of the top 100 liquidity pools coins on Uniswap right now. And again, we're going to be taking a little bit of a closer look at those pretty quickly here. But you can see, demand clearly here right now. And if you're not looking to specifically get into just 1 or 2 coins in Uniswap, you don't want to take the risk of a rug pull, all your eggs in one nest. This is a fantastic product to really diversify and hedge out that risk. If you believe the Uniswap pairs will continue to fly, which, taking a quick look at them, I quickly want to go over this Ken chart. This is an idea that we were talking about on stream yesterday. What did we say? We said don't buy the resistance. This thing was probably going to moon up to $15 or something on the break. Buy the throwback. Look where it went, 14.6, pretty spot on, isn't it? And she came right back down, sure enough. Unfortunately for the Ken bulls, this is flipping to resistance again. Ideally, what we want to see is that this takes another stab back up, maybe something like this. So takes a stab up, and what we want to see is this turn to support. We don't like these sharp sell-offs right below it, right? Because when it comes back up, more often than not, the former resistance will hold as resistance. So this price really needs to get back above this level for the bulls to get encouraged here, and then I think we can get a proper launch. Until I see this again, this turn to support, I'm not really interested in this right now. The play here has already been done on the intraday side. So let's just wait for this level here at 10.5 to flip to support. Then I think you're gonna have a pretty good, strong base. Well, strong as you can for a Uniswap pair.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. I mean, I find it fascinating that they still follow the TA as well, given that you don't get the same kind of order book action, and there's clearly not going to be the same kind of bots. I mean, there are bots on Uniswap, but certainly not the same degree and in the same style. And yet, sometimes even before the charts exist on these things, you're getting the same kind of reactions. Now, just before you dive, did you have anything else on Ken? Because before you go too far into the shitcoin space, I did have a couple things I wanted to touch on with the majors.
Sure.
If you're done with Ken.
All finished.
Okay, sweet. I'm going to steal a screen share here. Let's pull it up. And you actually have some very similar levels to me on the ETH and BTC, which is nice to see. I mean, we have slightly different approaches. Not even, I wouldn't even say approaches, but styles at least of charts. I throw a few more fancy things on my chart, and yet I end up with often the same levels that you've got. So let's have a look here. With Ethereum today, for example, I think on Bitcoin and Ethereum, you had the support resistance up here waiting for that confirmation. And I noticed as you said that, I wanted to point out that I've actually got the confirmation already. So I don't know if that makes it a front run signal, but we have moved through this trend line. We have closed above it. That's not really that important to me. I'm actually going to hide that right now because this is what, yeah, typing's a little loud there, Nick. So that's actually what's been really important for me to see is this low, this higher low. And again, for a couple of weeks now, we've been kind of watching this chart and had been watching this 370, 367 level. Again, didn't get my snipey, fancy, 367 shout. But now that we've closed back above here, especially like, look at this. This is what I wanted to talk about today as far as how bullish this looks now. This swing failure yesterday morning was nasty, right? We pumped up. There was a volume coming in. It was looking good. And then it just smashed down and then dumped out. And like, to me, that was the bears' chance to say, we're bearish. We're taking the new lows here. And then, of course, this close back up here today tells me we're really bullish. And at the very least, the short entry is going to come up here if you're interested in shorting this massive bull run that we're about to kick off. I think that sort of was my play. Like down here, I'm just like, well, I'm not shorting this level, even though it might look dumpy. It might be like, oh, I'm so late, but I should just do it. It's just not where you short things. Even if it does dump out, maybe you can get some kind of like bearish retest. But let today be a lesson that this is just not why. This is why you just have to have important levels picked out. I mean, you were at VPVR value low. We were at the 618. We were at the range low. We were at trendline support. I mean, there was like 6 reasons why it was a good place to long. And if you're not having the mood for that, then you just chill. You just got to watch. So almost the same thing on ETH BTC. We've got lots of bullish divergences. Each one of these marked its own little bullish divergence, and they kept coming in. I think it's got a little more room to confirm that same breakout and then resistance right above. So we've got a little bit more work to do over here. But as you can see, it's pushing today, which means ETH is outpacing Bitcoin. Love that move up. So without getting too redundant, because I think Nick covered this really well, I'm going to get over to the dominance chart. Big round celebratory number today. We just hit the 100th day. That is the century mark for this risk on window, which started, which seems like forever ago, on May 20th of this year. And there was some coins doing really well earlier in the year as well, as we saw. Obviously, we had a nice push in February, maybe consider the test pump to this whole thing. But this 100 mark is really nice. And despite an anomaly that was closed all the way up here the other day, it seems to have disappeared. And then yesterday it reappeared and then it disappeared. So for now, we are still in the risk on window. I left it for a few days. I didn't want to switch windows because these anomaly things do happen. And there was nothing, unlike the Ethereum chart, really to suggest that it was real. So turns out it was fake. And with all these tests, yeah, that level's getting weaker, but it's, I think this rejection here was telling, and with ETH BTC looking uppy, I do expect this risk on window shall continue at least until it doesn't. So with that, we had a couple coins on my radar that aren't quite in the Uniswap category, but CTSI is a new one that has captured some people's imagination this summer and flipped this trend line into support, and we just slid back down into it. So definitely one to keep an eye on, as it's suddenly off everyone's radar and it's got really quiet. And if I'm not mistaken, let's see, I believe it's 16 mil market cap. So it's like it's still on the smaller side here. So I like CTSI to make a big move up to here if it does break out of this area. I think for the more conservative type, you might want to wait for some bullish market structure. We still don't quite have that. See lower high, lower high, lower high. But once it gets in here for a higher high, so that at this point, that would mean breaking here. It just got rejected just now. Once that kind of breaks and you get that new structure, then you can have this kind of move, and we'll see where that ends up. So CTSI is one we've been watching. I really like that one chart-wise. And before I give it back to Nick, because I know he's got lots he wants to get into today, I just want to touch on SXP. Now, someone said to me it's pumping, so I was really excited. I thought it broke this level. It hasn't quite yet, so womp womp, but it looks like it. I mean, I think there's an ascending triangle in there if you're that kind of guy. I know one of the few patterns I see Nick charting is that. So let's put it on here. Want to appease the triangulars in the groups here. And
I think I'm on right now.
oh, are you on right now?
Oh. Yeah, you're gone, buddy. SXP has been covered. We're bullish on it. It's ready to fucking go. Here we go. Got the ascending triangle. The higher lows just needs to break the horizontal, and boom, hockey stick. Come on, boys. Anyways, this is a
Wi-Fi.
What got on?
Oh, good. Okay, you got Wi-Fi.
Yeah, like there's a lot of talk going on this one. So quickly, it looks healthy. Like it really does. We've had this breakout, and look, sure enough. Another example of why you do not chase breakouts. This thing's down 10% off those highs. Where's it going? It's coming back here, right? Liquidity draws liquidity. It's the same thing for attracting people to an exchange. It's the same thing for markets, right? People are going to want to reload in here. If this holds a support, this thing is ready to blast off to 20K plus probably, right? There's no bearish divergences or anything right now. This thing is just pumping out the momentum right now for the bulls. So yes, as long as we come back down to this 15 to 16.5K range, form a little bit of a base. It could just tap it even, like depending on how strong the momentum is, right? But I really like these double taps with the higher lows. It's just an awesome signal and trigger for me. It's the hit rate on this thing is 90% plus. So find me a strategy that's any better than that. I'll take a look at it. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for on YFI. Is this thing just keeps going. I've never actually participated in any of this governance stuff myself. I don't believe in a lot of this governance stuff. Why? Because a lot of the supplies are heavily centralized, whether that be through the LPPs. So those are called liquidity providers, liquidity provider partners. If you have LPPs are liquidity providers, or the team themselves. Maybe a little bit less so these days because there's a lot more scrutiny and criticism for high team distributions and unlocks early on. But exchanges are the biggest holders of this stuff as well by default because so many people proxy their coins with governance attributes to exchanges. So it creates a huge centralization risk and problem in the DeFi space. And I'm not quite sure how it's going to get solved just yet. Again, these are early days. These are a lot of stuff for experiments and social experiments and economic experiments. Everything's an experiment until it goes wrong. So that's what we're looking for on YFI. Quickly, I guess, unless you had a comment on that, I wanted to take a quick look at the polychain chart.
Just before you switch, I'm going to just point out a few targets I have written up on YFI. I think they will complement that chart nicely. They are on our Twitter. If you guys are on there, you can check them out. But this right here, when you're in price discovery, there are tools that exist that can help you find sort of where it might be headed. And in this case, I've applied 2 Fibonacci's. One of them that extends, you guys see me use this a lot. So you have that extension from the low up to the high, and that gives you an idea of where people will be looking to take profit, and it often just does result that way. So if you're like trying to set an order ahead of time, oftentimes if you get those high wicks, you'll see that they are fib levels. And then also this chaos PRZ just off this little consolidation here. So again, drawing from the low here to the high wick, and that actually really aligns nicely. So I find this 1618 and the 4669 often will align when they're drawn correctly in this. So I think that's two reasons why if I was holding YFI, I would probably want as a trader to snag some profit at 25,000, which is an amazingly high number. But again, that coin has like very tiny circulating supply. I think something like, what is it? 30,000? I believe it's 30,000. Yeah. So anyways, that's my thoughts on YFI for targets. Anyone is actually long on this mega whale size coin. Yeah, there's no shorting. So keep that in mind. Perfect. Yeah. Now, I think it might be a good time to touch on Swap. Swap made an announcement today. Now, we've talked about these guys a couple times recently, and they just announced their third Launchpad project. So we've got the first one, obviously. Well, Trust Swap was a big ICO this year, arguably the biggest ILO of the summer, peaking at somewhere around 325x from pre-sale prices. So let's take a quick look at that chart because it did get a nice bounce today. I suspected this may not sustain, and I'll tell you why in a sec. Basically, the pre-sale price was like a half a cent. So, I mean, that thing was like here, basically, and it just went right up to 5x and hasn't really looked back. And this is almost 325x up here. Perfect rollover up top that we had. Well, actually, I just had these charts on. It was sort of under the radar, so we hadn't really pulled it up, but a nice fail, bounce back up into the short RLZ. And it's come down into this support area, this trend line. And then today, it was this tweet, presumably announcing the third Trust Swap launch project coming in September only for swap holders. So incentivizing the users and the holders of the token by offering them positions in their next token launch. So that would be the result on the chart. Now, because this coin is not quite ready, I think, to take off to new highs or do anything, huge run. I mean, we're talking hundreds of X from the initial, which means there's a lot of profit takers in there, a lot of people who are willing to sell at this level because they're up a whole bunch of money. And that is why, well, yeah, that's why you get these shakedowns. And that's why you get big rally and then you get these long consolidations because it's just money exchanging hands until we decide, right? There's sellers eventually will run out and they will outweigh by the buyers. So I am expecting swap to take a little more time down here. I think this is probably a level that will get a tag just based on this candle alone. That's like a real big TA stilt, so to speak, almost like a gap. And that's something I expect would get filled. So we'll see. This trend line, typically I don't enter off trend lines. I don't trust them. I don't think they're great entries. They can make really nice exits on trades. And since someone explained that to me, I've been watching it and it holds pretty true. So watching and waiting for this thing to slide into the RLZ, generally just consolidate down here, and then we'll bring it back because I do like this project. I think it's got a lot of potential. Obviously, you can see a lot of other people think so too. And I think, they're doing pretty big things. I mean, they're already launching projects and they just started. They're doing interviews in China. They're getting the Asian exposure. I think some great things are coming for Swap, just not yet. Now, yesterday, this is it. Yeah. Chain is their, I don't know if it's their first or second, but they just announced was it their first? Yeah, I thought so. But then they just announced their third. So maybe I missed the announcement on the second one. But this thing came out, crazy action. Lots of pre-sale tokens were, unlocked. So obviously there was some selling, some buying, and it has now just kind of shaken out and is just resting on this 618 fib. And it looks pretty good. I mean, this is one, that Nick and I each have a position and we both think is probably going to age well. I think the owner came out today, or the founder said something about, he's in talks with some, announcements of announcements, but it was more just in casual conversation in the Telegram. And he just basically said, yeah, like, I mean, we're in talks with like a big electronics company somewhere, billion-dollar valuation type company, Fortune 100, and that's all he said he's gonna say. So, I think this is pretty cool. We actually wanna play this game after. I think on their website, you can actually play already. It's a crypto card, and there's P2P betting. So, Chain is one we'll be keeping an eye on, obviously, because we have some, but also because, it just looks like fun. I think the idea of, me when oh, how's the mic? Okay, I think the idea of playing Nick today in some random game for $50 worth of chain tokens sounds fun, so I'm gonna kick your ass. Kick your ass. But, we'll get into that, and then, they drop something like the fantasy sports of crypto, so I think there's lots of iterations that chain could get into, and I'm excited to see how they grow in the near future. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Think we're having a sound issue, guys. Getting some reports of no audio. Yeah, that was the heat. How are we doing now? 20-second delay, so we'll see if our sound just cooked back. And it's too bad because Nick was dropping fire. And we're gonna hopefully
Absolutely
get
fire.
right back to it in a sec. We
Let
will
us know
run
when you
that back
hear
for you
us.
guys.
Yeah, can you guys hear me right now? Let us know in the chat, please.
Deliver us a big old hell yeah if you can hear what we're saying. Okay, so it's just no Nick. Sounds like we got a block on Nick's feed, which is too bad because he was saying all the good stuff. Don't worry though, guys. We're gonna get that going for you in a sec. He's memorized the entire spiel.
It's true. Got it written on the back of my hand.
So for whatever reason, it sounds like in this shot, his feed's not there.
Back now.
Okay, good. All right, Nick, hit us up.
All right, cool.
You're
So
talking
yeah,
about big game publishers taking interest in some of these newer game-focused token projects.
yeah. So again, our focus is identifying trends early on. Initially, you're not going to have, it's going to be quiet. But as developers start seeing trends emerging, that's what they want to hop on. You don't want to be launching a project into something where there's no traction, there's no hype, there's no momentum, right? Similar to our trading styles, it's the exact same thing of when you're launching a company, right? That's why launching crypto-based ventures right now is a fantastic idea because you got the momentum behind you of the institutional push and soon to be retail push next year. So with this, we've identified gaming and NFTs as probably the next big trend following our success with Polkadots. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more projects like Chain Games and Ethers. Decentraland is picking up a bid today. I think they're up 20%. ENJ has picked up a bid as well. So institutional and
Yeah, let's check
private
out the gaming
investor
while you talk.
interest is going to be coming to this space. So identifying these really solid teams and really good products that are actually built already. Don't just buy into the idea of something. Buy into a product. Buy into a team, right? Buy into a solid economic model. That's what I'm looking for when I'm looking at things, right? So I think this sector is going to explode over the next couple quarters here.
So we've talked recently, obviously you've been talking in the newsletter about DeFi since the spring, but we've talked more recently about the idea of catching the narratives, catching the hype. Here, Johnny, flip over to my screen. I'm just got a couple gaming tokens up here that you mentioned and might as well have to look at while we're watching. You can see ENJ flipping off support here. One that we've talked about recently that I really like at these levels. I think you've got a pretty, especially with this dump here and then the bounce up. I mean, that's, if you're looking for invalidation, I think this support should be pretty good. And yes, you may have already spotted it. That is a pump chaser zone. So as far as catching the wave right in here, so far so good. Now, in addition to DeFi, we've been talking about Polkadot. Obviously has done quite well. And I've got Polkadot up here while you were speaking. Had a little sneak peek over there at the dot, which can't really do a daily yet. It's a little too new, but it's trending hard. I mean, it's not surprising. It's got, huge hype built into it. I think it ICO'd like 3 years ago. OTC markets almost 3x'd in the lead up to this launch. And since launch, after, again, 3-day waiting period, and then it's just been pump, chase, pump, chase. Now, one thing I want to point out, this is exciting. This is a front run on the 382. That means the price, as we see now, if you guys watch regularly, you'll see I talk about this all the time, because when you're in a rallying bullish market and it doesn't give you a chance to get in, say on the RLZ where I like to get in, then you've got to find another way to trade it. Other than just buying randomly and whatever. So this pump chaser fib, that's the 382 Fibonacci level. And this front ran it, which means it didn't even get the tag of that. And that's typically a very subtle but very bullish signal. And in the past, as recently as even just this spring, when I see this happen, it doesn't mean it won't get a tag. It still, of course, could, but we've put in some new structure since. I would have liked to see a higher low on the candle close. The wick came down here and didn't here. But let's see what it might look like if it was a little better. And then you get that, and that's your stronger structure. Point being, when things continue after front running the 318 or 382, excuse me, typically very strong. And I will give you one example of that I think I went back to earlier in the summer, because VeChain did this and it ended up aging really well. And it's something that you can start to look for. It's pretty rare, but I obviously watch this type of fib all the time, and it happened right here. So take a look at this. You're chasing this rally. You see the breakout. You want to get a piece. So you draw up your fib to the top of that rally. It comes back. Front ran the 382. That was a very strong signal. Subtle, right? Most people aren't watching that. But then you have your low, your higher low, your breakout, and obviously the continuation was extremely strong. So it's these subtle little things. If every asset, give or take, tags this 382 at least when it's trending up for the pullback, and it gets front ran, that speaks to a lot of internal strength. So let's take a look back quick at dots, because that's what I think just happened. Right now it looks like that's what just happened. And again, going back to all these narratives and this hype we've been following around Polkadot, I think it makes sense. And this 382 front run is pretty strong. And then of course, quick move up today. So let's keep a close eye on this, because if this does break to the highs and that's all it got was this, and it didn't even hit the 382, I think that's a very strong signal, and that would probably give us a chance to draw up a fib extension. You could take the whole move. It's a little aggressive, but this is an aggressive market right now. So I don't see why not. And if we were going to even just take this, wonder what our chaos would look like. Would it align? It's pretty high up. I think probably haven't even finished this chaos level yet. So let's see. Yeah, well, almost tagged it. So a few little levels to look at. I think an extension up into this area for dots, again, always looks a little wild, but probably not if we just front run that and we're ready to head. So Polkadot is hot. KLP is rising fast. I saw someone just mention that in the chat, so we might as well pull it up, because I've got it here basically the last 2 weeks, just watching it run away. This thing is on a whole other planet right now. Really, like, no pullbacks to think, to get in on. If you were chasing this with a fib, you wouldn't really have had a chance. I guess arguably, let's see. Let's see if the pump chaser had an opportunity here. I haven't even been watching it. I never went and signed up for Q Trade because I basically just hate money. And so I haven't taken a move on this one yet, but let's move it to the right so it doesn't look too cringy and get rid of a couple levels. We'll see if KLP has given an entry, and we'll see maybe if it's going to give one later. It's kind of I don't know. It's gone too far, too fast for me to try to chase it. I think there's better value elsewhere. But yeah, so if you took it from this low and chased it to this high, it did come back to the pump chaser zone, actually right into it, the 0.382 and 0.5. So I guess arguably there was a move there a few days ago, but it's just bubbling up at the highs here. No rejection and hardly any sell-offs. Would not be shocked to see this one continue one bit.
Looks good.
What do you think, Nick? Too late to buy KLP?
I would probably wait at this point.
Yeah, I think I would. I think generally speaking, like you said, it's a chart. There's 70 million market cap, so still tons of room to move up. But as far as charts go, this just isn't, on the whole, this is probably just a losing way to trade. If you're looking for things that just 10x'd in a week and you're going to go buy them, it could go another 5, 10x. You never know. But someday it will go too far, as all assets do, because human behavior generally never changes on the whole. And so when that happens, it will roll over, it will come down, it will give us retests, it will hit something like a 618 or a 786. And on that day, you will see it on my chart, and I will be buying it because I do like this coin. I think the narrative is great, but I may have missed this move, and that's just the way it goes. Think about swap, right? Yeah, swap looked too strong, but like anything, it comes back, and now it's time to start getting interested again. I still think it's early, but it's that idea, right? They all come back. So with that, we are well into our community request zone. So if anyone has any charts, if you maybe mentioned that got lost in the chat, hit us up again, fresh. And somebody on TradingView a little while ago asked this question. It was a bit vague, so I wasn't sure how to respond, but he said, when will the Bitcoin neutralization process end? I don't know what that means, Nick. Does that make any sense to you?
Bitcoin neutralization process. I've never heard of that before.
Okay, so I thought that. That's why I didn't. You were talking at the time. I didn't want to interrupt you, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, RLZ is reload zone. So it's that idea borrowed from Brian Beamish, my trade mentor, and it's basically the price will retrace into this zone, and that is when the people who sold the top, arguably smart money, whales, whatever, will start to fill their bags again. And you can see clear evidence that a number of the algorithms in trading are programmed off these levels because it just seems like uncanny how many times they will get hit. And I've got a number of names that I want to look at. So
I got Solana drawn up. I know somebody was looking for that one.
Okay, hit up Solana, and then I'll take on DUSK because I have a nice DUSK chart that I'd like to share.
All right. All right, perfect. Here we go. Solana, this is one that I had a lot of experience with in the OTC markets. Nobody wanted it. You get that a lot in the OTC space. Early on, no interest. Prices are low. Who wants to buy cheap things, right? People want to buy expensive things with momentum behind them. It's exactly what's happened here, right? Right now, we need this 275 level hold. This thing looks strong, right? We came back down, retested that original breakout point right down here, and we're back at the highs. So what are we going to be looking for now? Well, obviously, we're going to be looking for a break of these highs and a formation of support above them. So, this thing could rocket up, and back down she goes. If this turns to support, this is your entry. You totally could get long right now and, hope it breaks out. But I'm not in the business of making money on hope. So let's wait for a break of these highs here. It will probably run a little bit. I'm not sure how high it's going to go initially, but Wyckoff theory says, and this is going to come back down and retest these highs at some point. That's what I would be looking to get into. Where could this run to? Well, I'm thinking, just a measured move. So I've quickly drawn that up here to the highs. And this is the the move that I would be expecting up into that what is that 625 area? Yeah, around there, $6. Let's call it even at $6. That's a fair price for Solana, right? So that's what we're looking for on the daily. Let's quickly zoom down to the 4 hour. Yeah, look at this thing. Beautiful progression, higher lows, 1, 2, 3, higher highs. This is clearly a bull trend right here, right? So again, we're just waiting for this break of 415. No volume is coming just yet, so keeping an eye out for that one. But yeah, it looks strong. I like it.
All right. So Solana, that's one of those ones that the guy last week was saying, keep an eye on like ratios with that and Ethereum. Do you think it is that big of a project if you look into it?
I haven't spent a lot of time on this one, so I couldn't say definitively right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It's on my list of, as soon as I saw it kind of in the same conversation as Polkadot and Atom, I was like, oh shit, I need to look into that. So it's on my short list of things to read about when I have the time. Now, DUSK. Let's have a look at DUSK. It does look ready to go. It's parked in the pump chaser zone. And let's see. Let's see the momentum. I think I wrote this up on a different time frame. It did not. It was close to putting in a bearish divergence, but the MACD made a higher high here. And so on this move up, there's still some internal strength. That's actually a good sign as far as probability and trying to weigh whether it's going to continue on. I didn't like that it lost this level here, but it doesn't really change much. In fact, in general, let's just hide that for now and see what the chart looks like without it, because it kind of was skewing my thoughts on the chart. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a strong level. This support here, I think that's something I would keep an eye on. The other one only had the one tap. I guess I had the old pivot as well. That's why I had it there. But for now, we're just trapped between the pump chaser zone and this. If this resistance breaks, and it's had, 4 tags now, 4 days in a row. Let's actually zoom in. It's going to get a little messy here with that. When you resize things, sometimes you get a little messy. But yeah, so I mean, 4 tags looks ready to go. It has not failed. It has not broken out. So it's really just in this tight little range. Trend is up. Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. God, I like DUSK. I don't own any. And I know Messi's been talking about it. He's got a big old bag, and he's been making me feel like maybe I should have some. I think I am going to go and add DUSK to maybe a more passive portfolio. I could probably fire a trade from here as well, but it's just one that I think if I could find a 2x in here, then I can just have that for free long term. So let's see, what would that look like here? Oh yeah, getting up into this zone. I mean, if these highs break, I'm pretty convinced it'll get some kind of moonshot up into these levels. It's what we've been seeing for months now, and I don't see why it would be different for DUSK. So those are my thoughts on DUSK. Really like it, and it's actually a pretty solid spot right now too.
Yeah, my analysis hasn't changed either. I like the 2000 range up there once it breaks the resistance.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, this is one for the ideas section. I'm gonna publish this one later because I really like this spot for it. I've been waiting. Yeah, I've been waiting for weeks, and I think it's time.
It's time, guys. You hear that?
Yeah. What do you got up on your?
Look at MTA, another community request. Thank you for those. We really appreciate that. It's awesome. This is another one, super volatile. This is the FTX perp version of it. The USD chart, there's not a lot of price history on it, so it pretty much looks the exact same. What we're going to be looking for here is a retest of this daily level at 6.6. This is the key level that needs to be broken out. I just drew a line over here from the previous highs before it got swapped back down to under $4. Why? Well, we've had price reaction off that level, actually. Price tried to come back here, and where did it get rejected? Previous highs, and it sent it to crushing new lows. So this is definitely a big level to be watching, at 6.5, 6.7. So what does that tell us for a trade strategy? Well, a couple things. One, there's no reason to be long under it. Two, once it's flipped support, it's a great long. So you could either trade, this little move here. That's kind of exciting, not really. What I'm going to be looking for is the expansion trade. So if this thing rockets back up, wow, amazing, look at it go. back she comes to form a base of support. Again, looking for that. And then I think we can go take these highs here. So this is what I'm looking for. I want to see the price get above this resistance level on the daily there at 6.5, flip that level to support, and that's going to give me a lot of confidence, signal to the market that the bulls are here, they're in charge, and they're strong, and the probability is going to be to the upside rather than a breakdown. Obviously, these things can go either way, but so far, as long as the majors, we've talked about them at the top of the hour there, if they look good, that's going to give the green light for these smaller caps, especially on these FTX products, to go. Everything kind of moves in tandem these days.
Yeah, I think there's some fear coming into the market, maybe just as much as like people worried that it's it's too far too fast, and there's obviously some higher time frame trend reversal, the beginnings, rumblings of trend reversals and whatever, and that's the nature of consolidation and ranging. And on that note, actually, I had something we talked about bringing up today on ETHV, which is a coin we've been following fairly closely, as you're an advisor and we each have a bag, and this thing is a buy zone that I had drawn up. This is actually, so look, the thing about ChartX Pro is if you restart your browser or do anything, it resets your chart. So, sad face, but my ETH chart is reset. But rather than rebuild it, I've got this picture here. And this was a buy zone that as this trend was going on, I was like, man, this is the sweet spot, right? This is the sweet spot, the 786, this is the downtrend midline. I mean, what a sick entry. And as far as this relating to fear in the market, it was actually, 2 nights ago, there was a bit of an interesting thing on the Uniswap, kind of in the Uniswap world. Falcon Swap is a new one that launched recently. Jury's still out on that one, but basically their Telegram disappeared randomly like 2 days ago. And then the owner's Telegram account was deleted. So everyone's like, oh no, rug pull. And it's weird because the token wasn't even trading yet. I mean, they'd raised their money. So it was like a pre-liquidity exit, which is weird. But there was this fear, right? And there's some very loose connections on the back end between ETHV and Falcon Swap, in the sense that the founder knows the founder kind of thing. So everyone, anyways, one of the pre-sale holders of ETHV dumped when that happened. And I couldn't help but find it fascinating that it satisfied this TA level despite, and I just thought, like, what if, and it, anyways, Falcon Swap's back. Some issue with their trading, the Telegram server. But to your point, Nick, around the fear kind of, well, that was actually my point, but to what we were talking about with the fear in the market, all it took was like a totally different project to maybe be rug pulling for this thing, to tank. And then all I could think is like, what if that didn't happen? Would this box had been filled? Either way, it has been, and we're back moving. So that's kind of exciting and just weird. And that shit happens all the time, right? Like, for example, Swap comes out today. They give that announcement, and it's like it bounced right off the trend line. It just looked, how many times FA lines up with TA is phenomenal.
It's creepy.
It's a little creepy. So spooky stuff going on. Let's take a look at OM. And it doesn't really have to be a pre-prepared chart because, again, this is, as far as I can tell, only on ChartX Pro, which means there's not much you can do as far as saving the chart ahead of time anyways. Now I'm a little disheartened to see this thing fail as it broke these highs, because I did see it break these highs and I thought, oh, that's cool, it's breaking out. Put in a double top, which for now is just short term. Let's see. So you have this high. Now you see it actually bounced off that neckline, that fail spot, bounced off it and then failed again. And then the next time it hit it. And then as soon as that fails, and this is evidence, guys, that market structure is real. It is a thing. People are watching for it, because as soon as that confirmed, big dump, right? And that's just, again, cool shit about TA. When you learn how to spot these structures and then you see them fail, the price accelerates because everyone's watching it and it turns into panic. But the bounce back up, bears retest, standard stuff. So let's see. I mean, for now, it's just kind of consolidating. I think it's on the higher, it's not high market cap, but it's higher than micro by now. I think it was somewhere around 50, 60 million? Yeah, 57 million. This one I heard is related to Polkadot, which is always a plus. I was actually looking at their website the other day, just out of curiosity. So we can do that live here. Take a quick peek. staking, lending, borrowing,
All the good
aka
stuff.
all the good stuff, DeFi. We're going to get to a point where it's like ad nauseum, like, oh, another one that's doing this thing, but they all have slightly different little things about them. They're all worth, a good speculative look. A lot of them are going to catch really nice rallies, and it's going to be very interesting in 2, 3, 4, 5 years to see which ones win out over the others. For now, we're in that sexy part of the market where just kind of everything rallies, and that's a lot of fun. So it's on one of the Polkadot chains, has a team. So yeah, I think it's pretty low shot for, and this is actually becoming a relevant metric now, like odds of rug pull. If you can get that number to 0, you're winning on Uniswap. And it's a sad statement of affairs, but it's true. And so I don't really mess with anything these days where I'm worried that like, oh, maybe the team will just exit. You can either have someone and trust vouch for them, or you can have owners that are, forward facing and legit. Like there's ways to find out and get a real good feeling for how safe the liquidity pool is overall. For now, this one is at resistance. So I'd probably want to see it get above here before I'm interested. And ideally, obviously above here. So yeah, for now it's a wait and see on OHM, because if it fails here, it's got a bit of an ascending triangle thing. So it does look bullish, but I would wait. Personally, I'm going to be waiting because actually I had a buddy of mine tell me about this one too. And I was kind of like, okay, cool, fine. I'll get some. But I am going to wait till it regains this level, because if it doesn't regain this level and it craps out, well, then I can get some a lot cheaper. So it seems odd to look at a thing, say it looks bullish, say you want to get some, but you're going to wait till it's more expensive. But the reason is there is also a probability that this is just resistance and I can just get shit on and rather get it cheaper. So we'll see.
Got to play the expansion moves, not the range.
That's right. Yeah. Shades of everything you've been saying today. So I'm just a copycat.
Well, I got one more chart to wrap it up here on my end.
What do you got?
Got OMG. I know, kicking the dead horse here. We've been keeping an eye on it for a while. Now starting to put in a little base layer here, some support. It's forming kind of up there at 4.6. I think if we can tap out these highs here at 5.8, this thing is probably going to go for another nice run back up to at least 7.2. So I'm going to be keeping a pretty close eye on that. How do I think this could play out? Well, I had to zoom it down here because this thing just moves so aggressively on high time frames. It's literally just a green dildo up. So we're going to be looking for this high to get swept, this high, and probably this one here. So yeah, this market looks good, as long as it's above, this range here. If we lose here, I think it could probably just be a sharp V and then right back into it. But yeah, we're going to be looking for this to hold as support. This is the box. And looking for these range highs, nice little volume node there at 5.8. So if this high gets taken, we'll just say this turns to support. Then I think it would make its next run up to take out these. So that's kind of the market structure I'm going to be looking for on this. I'm not in a position on this just yet. I want to see it confirm the momentum. Otherwise, there's always the risk of the V down, right? So that's why I wait personally. I just have no interest in taking this risk right here. I'd rather have the confirmed move. So I'll be waiting for that. But, fundamentally looks good. They just had a lot of use case added to their chain and stuff with Tether. So yeah, keeping an eye on that one for sure.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, before that huge rally that it just had, it sat dormant for like 2 months in consolidation. So, after another huge move, I don't know if I'd rush to long it as a continuation. We've just seen very recently, but then again, there's a new FA catalyst, so take that with a grain of salt. But again, we've talked about it even earlier today. When you get a huge rally and then a sell-off, often does take some time to consolidate, and I find that amount of time that it has to consolidate usually is somewhat correlated with the size of the move preceding it. Do you find that?
Yeah, definitely.
It kind of makes sense if you think about the money changing hands and all that.
Compresses, needs time to distribute, reaccumulate.
Yeah, more profit to be taken, more, whatever, just more shaking out to do, more business to be done, the bigger the move. And we've seen that with HBAR, actually. I'd like to pull that up because it's a good one that I haven't looked at in a while. Now let's take a look at Serum, because this thing has just come out flying. Again, sounds like a really good project. I mean, hearing good things about it. Have not done my own personal deep dive. Launched. It was a launch pad for FTX, was it not? Is that correct?
Serum, yeah.
Serum, yeah. Okay, so there, you know, I know a little bit, but let's take a look. There's not a whole lot to work with on the chart here. I think we just got a really nice breakout actually. So if you were watching this thing closely, you know, once you put in this level, and then it breaks through. And there was a cute little wick back down, just to be like, "Hey, we bull? Yeah, okay, cool. We're taking off." And now we're moving. It actually might be in a little pump chaser zone right now. Let's have a look. We can take that off here. And we'll draw that on. Yeah. Now, depending how you want to draw it, I actually would draw it here, but you could arguably stretch this down here and see how that looks as well. If you draw it here, and the reason I would do that is because it's sort of new structure. I don't know. Really depends who you are, what your style is. We did just front run that 382, but to confirm that, we need new structure as well. So for now, it's not as bullish like necessarily as the dot one, but this one is one I expect to continue to run. And if you're going to chase the pump, do it with some kind of plan, some kind of strategy, so you don't just get shit on. Now, this Serum chaos level is up just around $5. And that's probably the only way to get a good sort of target idea from here, unless you wanted to do an extension up. Let's see. Yeah, there's a level here as well. Probably worth a look. Smaller little consolidation here might give us some confluence. Yeah. Well, look at that. Smack. So, okay. So here's the thing. And this is going to drive some people nuts. They'll look at it like, well, where do you draw it? Do you draw it here? Do you draw it there? And first of all, this is kind of a newer tool in my tool belt. Even the guy who showed it to me, again, Brian from TRI, he is playing with this thing. And like, you know, it's a newer tool for everybody and we're just messing with it. But there is obviously some value to it. And so what you can see here is this little consolidation here. Take the low, take the high, and kick it out. And it gives you some targets. And, you know, sure enough, price just coming smacking into it. So, you know, it's one that I like to put on for extensions, getting up into the nitty gritty moon zones. And Serum looks really bullish. There's just no two ways about it. I mean, think about it this way. If you take out the initial volume, because that was really shrinking it, chill, volume rising, price starting to rise. This does not look like blow off top to me. This looks like the beginning of a much larger move. So that's my 2 cents on Serum. I think I'd like to look at its market cap because I haven't even done that yet. I feel like it's probably pretty big. Yeah, number 100 already. So 123 mil. But 123 million is small if you're going to be like a premium sort of top tier project. So if that's what Project Serum is going to be, powered by Solana. Okay. So there's a little bit, you know, maybe it's time for me to dive into this because I get a little more aggressive buying things, you know, like again, pump chaser fib, chasing it up. I will get more aggressive with that if I've read into it a little more and I know what I'm buying. When it's just a random ticker, I'm much more conservative, obviously. So yeah, thank you for whoever brought up Serum. I think that's one I'm going to add to my little short list here as well. Because it looks bullish, and just because, and this is actually maybe a good time to talk about an old bad habit of mine, which is because I missed the best entry, I stopped looking at an asset. Do you ever do that, Nick? Historically?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, let's get onto the camera. Good idea. Yeah, I've had that habit before where, you know, you see it, it's like, oh, I missed it, and it breaks out, and then you're just like, went and on to the next one, and then you look back. This actually happened recently with SXP when it first came out and its first big breakout, and I thought, okay, that's cool, man, that is really bullish. Finance partner with them, but you know, I missed it, and then you know, of course, a few weeks later, you're like, oh. So I am getting better through, you know, sort of my like trade journal and reflecting and just being like, did I miss that because of that same habit? And if something's really bullish, then there's usually a reason things are going up. You know, it's not about buying tops and chasing, but I just stopped that habit, which is to ignore something just because I missed the best entry. it's trending up, there's a new entry somewhere. I'm getting better at finding it. Are you at your standing desk?
I am standing today.
Ah, dude, I want to stand. I've got
Got some new slippers, testing it out.
pros actually. Nick and I have the same desk, and they do transition. So I'm in seated mode today, but I think I'm going to try that on Monday. Speaking of which, we are going to wrap today. It is Friday, August 28th. So I think it's basically September next week. I think we have one more.
Yeah.
We're going to be live on the last day of August, I think. Whatever that is. We're on the Monday, 2
31st.
p.m. Eastern time. So I hope you guys had a wonderful day today with us here on Hxro Labs Live. Really appreciate you coming out. And if you have any other coins, maybe in the comments that we didn't get to, hit us up in the trading pit on Telegram. The description to this video has the address to that. It's a free chat, and I'll be spending some time in there this weekend. So you can hit me up, tag me in there at Random Task, and I'd be happy to throw some charts at you and share my thoughts, because that's what we do here, just sharing ideas. And what is that? Oh,
It's my lucky
is
rock.
that the... Oh, I looked over. I was like, what happened to Nick?
To the moon.
To the moon. All right.
Every day, boys.
So have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the last little bits of summer as we head into fall, and hopefully a continuation of this epic bull run. Whatever you do, always play from a position of strength.
Patience pays.
Have a great day.